Well, the Court of Appeal has refused the oral requests by Rivers and Lagos states to appoint a receiver or manager to collect value-added taxes in place of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, pending the resolution of all legal disputes in the matter. Well, the two states separately asked that the order of status quo ante belum granted on September 10 in favor of the FIRS to continue the collection be put on hold in view of the appeal already lodged at the Supreme Court against the order. Presiding Justice Hamma Simon Tsanami ordered the two states to file applications to make their request formal. Meanwhile, the court has reserved a ruling in an application by Lagos to make it a respondent in the appeal filed by FIRS against a judgment granted in favor of Rivers State by a federal high court in Port Harcourt. All right, let's bring in Arise News analysts, Dr. Sam Amadi and Mahmud Jega, both of you Arise News analysts. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Well, the southern governors met again in Enugu State and they came up with about 6 or so 7 points, reiterating some and strengthening some others. But let's look at item 3 and 6. 3 specifically talks about the commitment, that's the Southern Governors' commitment to structural and fiscal federalism. They want that part to actually be included in the Constitution when amended finally. What do you both gentlemen think about this? Because they are saying they're insisting on fiscal federalism. Let me start with you, Mahmud Jega. I'm sorry.
Well, as the governor said in the communique, the constitutional amendment process is on. So if you want to enshrine what is generally called fiscal federalism, first of all, we have to define very precisely what we are talking about. And then we have to present it as a constitutional amendment bill, and then try to gather the necessary 2/3 majority in both chambers of the National Assembly, as well as approval by 26 state houses of assembly before it can become a part of the Constitution. So that is the task before the southern governors who are agitating for the constitutional backing for fiscal federalism.
Dr. Sam Amadi, you want to give us your thoughts on this call by the SGF saying they want fiscal federalism to be enshrined in the 1999 Constitution when amended?
I think clearly even the northern governors are going to agree notionally with the concept of fiscal federalism, but the question, the devil is in the details. So it's not what that means in the Nigerian oil-dominated economy and the political spin-off from that mono-economic focus is that fiscal federalism in the short to medium term would be that some people will receive more than they're doing and some less. So that's where the politics comes in. But as a general point, I think you will receive some kind of favorable hearing. Again, if you look at the composition of the National Assembly, arguably, if they do their lobby well, it can get to third majority both houses to support the idea of fiscal federalism. Think about Zamfara, win-win. You know, you can manage your mines, your natural resources. Niger is rich on natural resources. So primarily, it's be a function of the ability to fully mobilize the resources from their state and make some inroad in the north, where you're going to have some holding out by perhaps some persons who might see fiscal federalism as, orchestrating some degree of dislocation or some degree of recalibration in the economic power balance. Again, I like the fact that they want to follow a constitutional process, but the first thing is also to communicate at the level of public policy. So once the public signs up to the idea that fiscal federalism is a win-win because it's going to get us back to creating incentives for all the region. We have several regions, all of them have mineral resources, they have human and natural resources that can optimize. So it depends on the messaging, on the outreach, and how this is communicated, not just as a separatist or some kind of political advantage over another region.
Well, I like the use of it depends on how it's communicated. And I'm staying with you, Dr. Amadi. Well, they reiterated the fact that the governors are insisting that the president must, the use of the word must come from the South. I thought that elections were based on numbers and coalitions. What do you make of the semantics of that particular reiteration from the governors? I'll come to you, Jega, after Dr. Mahmud, after Dr. Amadi takes the question.
Well, I think the governors are politicians. They understand these dynamics, that this is ultimately about votes. But again, the thing about the North-South divide in Nigeria is a sense of balance. So nobody's going to be president without 1/3 or 25% of two-third states, as the case might be. So what this suggests to them is that, look, when they use the word must, I think they mean to underline that this is for them a bargaining tool. This is critical. They want to create an impression that we're not just making, this is not rhetoric, this is not just like maybe a shopping bag. It's okay, if we don't get it, this is really where we want to stand on. And it's not insulting, it's not ignorant of the fact that the dynamics of politics is that a Southerner must be a candidate of the major party, and then the party as a whole, PDP, APC, and other parties must be parties that are rooted in the North and the South. And so the use of language must probably is to elevate the level of urgency and the fact that they consider it as just and fair. But ultimately, it is a political question, and politicians know the limit of must. It's all contingent on the art of the possible. So it's going to be extremely a matter of negotiation, but at the beginning of communication, they want to communicate how serious, how they see it as a strong position. This is not just a wish list. This is not just flip-flop. They want to communicate that, look, we stand on this. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be a matter of party primaries, a matter of consensus in the political party, but ultimately also they're speaking to the public. Don't forget, the political issues start from public
Mahmud.
issues. So
he said it's a matter of negotiation. Do you agree with Sam?
Well,
using the word must.
You see, the Southern governors belong to at least 3 different political parties. Some of them are APC, majority of them are PDP, and at least one of them is ABGA. And you see, for the members of each political party, the most important thing is to win the election. If you are a practicing politician, the most important thing is for your party to win the election, because that's the only way you can realize ministerial or ambassadorial or any other ambition. So in the end, each of those 3 political parties and all the others will have to go back and sit and make its calculation as to the best way that it can win the presidency. And party members among them will have to go and lobby and explain and negotiate within their parties. And don't forget, apart from the 3 parties that they belong to, there are many other political parties. So that is why a political party must look over its shoulder. It's not something that you can just do sentimentally and say, let's push the presidential ticket to this place, because you will say, okay, but if the other parties do this, how will that affect our chances? So in the end, all those things will factor into the calculations.
Well, before we go, still staying with you, Mahmud Jega, do you think the parties, can these southern governors who belong to different parties actually influence their parties, APC, PDP, and the others, to go south in picking their presidential candidate?
Well, for example, ABGA has only one governor. He's a governor of Anambra State, so he's a very big force in the party. The PDP governors are mostly from the south, so therefore they are a very big influence within PDP. The ones that have a problem are the APC members among them, because they are probably in a minority within the APC arrangement. But they have some psychological advantage, because it looks like many people in the north think that, yes, the next president should come from the south. The only thing is, it also depends on what PDP does, because I have seen some rumbles that PDP should produce a northern candidate. If that happens, some people in APC may say, if they do that and we push our ticket to the south, are we sure we will win the election? So all kinds of
permutations
will come in.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Mahmud, Jega, and Dr. Sam Amadi, Arise News analyst, for your contribution.